Welcome into the Hard Count, the People's College Football Show. It is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. Last one on the face of planet Earth. Cato, started my morning strong, brother. 3:48 in the morning, a little ice water to the face, Saratoga water next to me, a little banana peel in the face. It was a good day. It's a good morning, man. I'm ready to rock and roll. A lot of schools across the country already rock and roll in spring practice. On and popping. Just about everywhere you look. A few more schools about to open up spring ball, but had a couple of schools open up spring practice last week. We're going to unpack some of the intel we're hearing. So before we do that, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're locked and loaded. If you watched our most recent full-length show, you know then that we're taking some voicemails from y'all. Okay, 629-888-3931. So the middle eight, it's very crucial. We picked that number so you could have those numbers in the middle, not even having to think about them. 629-888-3931. Looking forward to hearing from y'all. A few more voicemails to unpack a little bit later in the show. So we'll do that. But again, let's jump right into this, man. The intel out of Michigan spring practice so far. Now, they keep that thing locked down over there, so very difficult to get intel from what's going on behind closed doors in Ann Arbor. But we got a little bit of something for you. So the first thing that we're hearing, the first question everyone's going to be asking is, hey, what's going on with Bryce Underwood? He's the future of Michigan football. Is he going to win the job? My answer is I think so. Do we know that to be the case right now? It's only a few practices in, so no real intel there. But I will say Bryce Underwood, and what we're hearing around him is he is ahead of schedule when it comes to picking up the playbook. Might sound like nothing. I think that's something, because with Bryce Underwood, nobody's questioning the physical traits or the physical tools. You could line him up right now, and I think Bryce Underwood would look the best in the pro day out of all the Michigan quarterbacks. Nobody's questioning that. That all jumps off the video if you're going to watch him go throw the ball around at practice. The thing with him, though, with him being ahead of schedule when it comes to learning the playbook, that gives you a lot of confidence as a Michigan fan when you hear that, okay, he's going to be able to get up to speed within the college game. Because whenever you have a super talented freshman at any position, especially quarterback, that's always the question you have, right? Hey, this was high school. Are you able to play at the level you played at in high school, though, when you have a bunch of grown men running after you, when you have to go play at their speed? I think that's something that he'll be able to do over the course of time. My expectation is, by reading the tea leaves here and seeing how this whole thing is shaping up, I think he will be your guy for game one. If it's not game one, I think it'll be before the end of September. So Bryce Underwood, so far, picking everything up from the playbook perspective. That's a very good sign. I'll also say this, too, the other intel we got around Bryce Underwood, the guys love him. Like, that's always a question, too, especially when you're a high-profile recruit in today's modern era of college football and you are allegedly getting as much money as Bryce Underwood is allegedly getting. How are you received by the rest of your teammates when you walk in there, you haven't played a snap of college football, and you're already allegedly getting millions of dollars? That's not that doesn't really cater to the most relatable sense, if you will. It doesn't really cater to something everyone can identify with. It sounds like by the way that he works, by the way that he goes about his business, and by how he carries himself, what I've been told is that folks gravitate to him. And so all that's to say now, if you want to be the quarterback at a place like Michigan, you better have that it factor to you. You better have that confidence, that swagger, and you better be liked by everyone else in your locker room. Sounds like that's the case. That is very good news for Michigan fans, and that is very good news for everyone holding the ticket that Bryce Underwood will start game one for Michigan Wolverines. Very early on, but it's just starting to trend that way, and good things so far on the Bryce Underwood front. One more thing I heard around him, the comparison I got around Bryce Underwood when it comes to how he's being received in the locker room. J.J. McCarthy, take of that as you will. J.J. McCarthy, also a guy with a lot of confidence, a lot of swagger, came to Michigan with that, ended up taking over the starting job pretty early on in his career as well. Not a bad comp to have. So that's the Bryce Underwood side of things. Now, the question you also have if you're a Michigan fan is, well, hey, JD, what's the receiver room going to look like? That's great. We got a 5-star quarterback. Do we have anybody for him to throw the football to? McCauley from Indiana is a guy they're super excited about. Sounds like he's a guy that is looking like a number one guy at this point in time. We'll see if that continues to be the trend. Fred Moore is a guy they think could break out at Michigan this upcoming season. Fred Moore was on the roster a season ago, but y'all, I don't know that it's super fair to have a ton of criticism around last year's wide receiver room. And this is no knock on a Davis Warren or an Alex Orji, but they just, quite frankly, weren't the caliber of quarterback to get the football to all of those weapons. So Fred Moore, what I'm trying to say here is, could be a lot better than maybe some folks even know right now. They feel excited about him. With that being said, they will still probably go to the transfer portal should they find the right fit for their roster and for their playbook. Now, the running back room is a position they've been really fired up about so far in Chip Lindsey's offense. Sounds like they want to get the ball to the running backs a little bit more in the pass game, involve them a little bit more, which I think is good news when you have whoever it is, probably a new starting quarterback, give them some safety valves to get after in the pass game a little bit. Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes, you would imagine will be your 1-2 punch. That's the way it sounds right now. Jordan Marshall, Michigan fans got to see last year in the bowl game, did work against Alabama. Justice Haynes transferring over from Alabama. Funny enough, speaking of Alabama now two times during this Michigan segment. Reports are he is in tremendous shape. Like, dude looks like an action figure. They have been really, really pleased with him. And that's the part about Michigan that I think maybe gets lost in the conversation around Bryce Underwood. Yeah, you have this elite talent at quarterback, but like the traits of Michigan are staying the same. Yes, you have a new offense. Yes, you want to throw the football more, but it is still going to be an offense that is built on making you say uncle with their physicality up front. Now, the offensive line, you still have to figure out a little bit. My money says Sharon Moore being the head coach, and with that being a position group that I think he takes pride in, I have confidence that will be sorted out by the time they start playing games that actually matter. Now, defensively, sounds like they're a lot more settled than they were a year ago this time, because Wink Martindale comes in there, and he's an NFL guy. He's used to coaching pros, and he's a no-nonsense kind of guy, to put it in a PG kind of sense. And what I was told was that creates a little bit of a shock factor when you're dealing with the personality like that and you're a college player. There's no more shock factor. They're all the way acclimated. They know how he operates. He knows how they operate. And they feel like they're in a spot where, regardless of who's at quarterback, whether it's Mikey Keene, whether it's Bryce Underwood, if the offense under first-year coordinator Chip Lindsey in Ann Arbor takes a second to get its sea legs, they think that the defense can carry them. They feel great about their depth. They feel great about their athleticism. And it's crazy to hear this as a Michigan fan, or at least for me it was crazy to hear this, because you're losing more than likely, 3 first-round picks between Grant, Graham, and Will Johnson. They don't think they're going to take a massive step back. They think they're in still a really solid spot when it comes to what they're going to be defensively. Rashawn Benny was a name that I was told they're excited about coming off the edge. They think he's a potential first-rounder when it's his time to go to the league. The Michigan defense isn't going anywhere. Yeah, they're going to have some different faces out there. Yeah, the offense is going to change, but like the defense, that was the calling card for Michigan over the course of the last few years. That is very much so still intact. So good vibes so far out of Ann Arbor. Michigan spring intel. It's very early, but keep it locked right here. We'll have more conversation around the Wolverines here as we move forward throughout the spring. And make sure you're locked in over to the Wolverine Michigan's On 3 site. The entire team over there just owning all the coverage when it comes to Michigan football and also college basketball right now as they are getting ready to make a run here in this tournament. Now, we'll go out to South Bend, Indiana. What's the intel we're hearing at a Notre Dame spring practice? Still getting rolling. Everyone's wondering who's going to play quarterback for them, right? Is it CJ Carr? Is it Kenny Minchey? Is it Steve Angeli? Sounds like Steve Angeli is approaching this thing like it's his job. And everyone in a quarterback battle should be approaching it like it's their job. But the buzz out of spring camp is like, no. Steve Angeli believes this is his job to lose. I think there's probably a sense among some Notre Dame fans that's the feeling as well. And when I say he's approaching it like it's his job, this is a guy that's waited his turn now. This is a dude that's been around the block. This is a guy that, coming out of last year's bowl game, I think a lot of Notre Dame fans thought he was going to be your starting quarterback in 2024. Obviously, you go get Riley Leonard, and that changes the entire conversation around what he was going to be in 2024. But like, you hear what I'm saying? He's a guy that's waited his turn, and I don't think he's going to be someone that just lets this opportunity slip through his fingers. Now, while that's the case for Steve Angeli on the experience side, the ceiling for a CJ Carr, full transparency, is probably higher. Kenny Minchey is the most athletic of the group, and if you watched Notre Dame's offense last year, how much they did in the quarterback design run game, I think that probably still has to be a factor some way, somehow, even if Kenny Minchey doesn't win the job. But the discussion you have to have if you're Notre Dame internally is, okay, we got this young buck in CJ Carr, who might be ultimately a guy who gives us a higher ceiling, but where is he right now? Because ceilings are great. I love talking about the higher ceiling, but if I don't have you at a point where you can actually help us go win the football games we need to win early on in the season, then I don't really care how good you can eventually be. How good are you right now? It's a what are you doing from right now kind of business. So I think Steve Angeli is still probably going to be the guy. I think he will have to earn it. I think it'll go into fall camp. But so far, Steve Angeli, the one who's leading guys to and from stations during drills and practice. He's kind of the vocal leader, it sounds like, of sorts, and all signs, as of right now, point to him being your guy for Notre Dame football, but we got a long way to go in the spring. Now, the wide receiver room is really interesting when you talk about Notre Dame. I've said a couple of times, I think that room has more juice than I think is given credit for nationally in the college football public space. We saw Jaden Greathouse pop last year against the two best defenses Notre Dame played, went for over 100 yards against both Penn State and Ohio State. You saw Jordan Faison on what he can do. People, I don't think, are aware of what they went and got via the portal and two proven commodities in Malachi Fields from Virginia and a Will Pauling. Now, Malachi Fields is not yet on campus, but he is going to be a dude, I think, when he gets rolling. Will Pauling from Wisconsin is a guy that was hand-plucked by Mike Brown, the current wide receiver coach at Notre Dame. So if a coach is going to get in a player from a school he was at, should tell you everything you need to know about what he thinks of Will Pauling. These are guys that have both played a lot of college football. Guys, with proven production. And this is not to dunk on the most recent portal class that Notre Dame got at the wide receiver position the year before. I just feel like you have a lot of a less mystery around both of those cats. So you feel good about that wide receiver room. Probably still need some young bucks to step up a little bit if you're talking about what Notre Dame needs to be offensively. But I really believe that if Steve Angeli is your guy or CJ Carr is your guy, I think there'll be a lot more of a vertical passing game, and the receiver room, I think, will ultimately equip you to do that, should everyone continue to take the next steps. Now, defensively, it's under new management, all right? Al Golden, no longer your DC. Welcome into the fold, Chris Ash. Now, Chris Ash is, from what I can gather, taking the approach, and I think he said almost as much in different words, hey, I just got to not screw this thing up. We got a lot of talent. As long as I don't drive this thing off a cliff, we should be in really good shape. And that's kind of the feel, I think, across the building as well. They're in a spot where they've recruited that side of the football so well, they really should be able to pick up where they left off last season. Now, you do lose some leadership, right? You lose a Ben Morrison, you lose an Xavier Watts, a Jack Kaiser, all that is true. But they feel real good about what they have in-house. Leonard Moore is a guy who switched to the single digit, all right? So we appreciate that. Anytime you're a lockdown corner, rocking the single digit probably lends itself to a little more swag. We're here for that. I mean, he's been as advertised throughout spring practice, making some plays. I mean, the way that he's able to move is, just NFL-like. I want to talk about some of the young bucks, though, that might get some burn for Notre Dame this upcoming season. Two freshmen I want to highlight. One, safety Jaden Blair. Second, linebacker Madden Faremo. Let's start with Blair. We saw him in Nashville for the Elite Series, and we also saw him when he early enrolled at Notre Dame. He was with the team during the national title media days and on the field and all that before the game. Dude's big, man. Just overall size. That's a cat now who, when you see him in person, you're like, that's a safety? Looks like he's about to bulk up and play edge. Like, he's got that kind of build to him, and there's a belief that he will have the opportunity to battle for some playing time early. And then Madden Faremo is a linebacker that played in the Trinity League out of Southern California. Am I biased because I played in that league? Absolutely. I think it's one of the best high school leagues in all of America. The bottom line here is he's going to be a guy that if they end up playing five linebackers like they did in previous seasons, Madden Faremo will get some time as a true freshman. Okay, so all that to say, defensively, yeah, you lose some guys, but there's no dipping when it comes to the standard at Notre Dame, and there's no dipping in terms of what they're able to accomplish on that side of the football, even with what they lost at a coordinator level and a personnel level. Now, I'm always curious whenever we talk to folks around spring practice what the vibes are. And vibes and feel is maybe something that gets blown out of proportion, but it's that time of year, so we're going to go ahead and lean into that. The feeling in the building is last year was nice. Last year was good. We were so close, there's no reason we can't run it back. We've proven to ourselves, and that's, I think, the most important thing. Anytime you prove to yourself what you're capable of, it doesn't matter what the outside opinion is. Because the outside opinion is going to have takes on, well, Marcus Freeman, and they still lost to NIU, and they kind of caught fire, good for them, but the schedule, Riley Leonard, all this, all that, like, there's a lot of outside noise. Inside that building, though, they think they're in a spot where they can run it right back, be a playoff team, be a national title contender team, and go finish the drill. Marcus Freeman, he delivered last year. A lot of conversation around South Bend of year 3 this, year 3 that. Year 3, they made the national title game. So I don't think there's any question around the coach that Marcus Freeman is. The question now is, can you take that next step? And the blessing and the pressure is the next step is, can you go win that final game of the season, which will this year be in Miami, a place that Notre Dame won a semifinal game a season ago. So all that's to say, very early on, vibes are good. Quarterback, something to watch. Receiver room should provide some juice while you need some guys to step up for depth purposes. I feel good about that room. And then defensively, I mean, same song, second verse, different DC. Go finish the drill, I think is the vibe right now in South Bend, Indiana. Now, one more team to talk about here when it comes to intel. Had their third practice this morning to the South Carolina Gamecocks. Y'all, if you've watched this show, we are enormously high on South Carolina. Enormously high. I love Lenora Sellers. I love what they did last season. I love the way they finished last season. I love momentum. I love Shane Beamer, all those things. And I want to start with the vibe around South Carolina spring ball right now because I think that's actually really, really noteworthy. The feeling right now, the overall internal sentiment is, hey, can we take it a step further? I believe that was actually on their media release when they reached out to the rest of the media covering South Carolina. They said, hey, Coach Beamer wants to take it a step further this year. And they're feeding off of the fact they were so close but didn't get into the college football playoff. 9-3, almost got it done. A play here, a play there. They're 10-2, and they're in the dance. They watched the playoff, like you and me last year. And while that stings in 2024, it's something that it sounds like Shane Beamer is challenging his team with in 2025. I love that. I absolutely love that because that means there's an edge. That means there's no lack of competition internally. It means there's no complacency. Like I'm very, very excited to see what they are here in 2025. Lenora Sellers, the intel on him is he's locked in. Everyone's going to say that about their quarterback this time of year, but the note on him is he's not impacted from what last year's success was in a positive way. If you're Lenora Sellers, you went from being a guy that people thought would be good last year, this time a season ago. There's excitement for him and what he was as a recruit and all those things. But the question was, hey, can he pick up where Spencer Rattler left off? Can he keep the Spencer Rattler momentum intact? He's coming into the year, and I think he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. I think that what he did at the end of last season was as impressive as any quarterback in the country. He's not feeling any different about himself. He's not, impacted by the undoubted NIL money he got from last season. He's not acting different. Like all those things to me is like Lenora Sellers is the same guy. He's sticking to what works, and he is still keeping that quiet confidence that he gives off as the quarterback at South Carolina. Now with that, he's working to be a more vocal leader, is what I have been told. That's obviously a good thing. You want your leader, especially at the quarterback position, to be a little bit more outspoken, and I think that's probably something that you would hope Lenora Sellers does as he evolves as a leader at South Carolina. Now, the big thing with South Carolina when it comes to maximizing a Lenora Sellers is, well, who is he throwing the football to? Nicholas Harbor is a just freakazoid receiver for them. You knew about him being an absolute track star as well. Like, dude could legitimately be flirting with the Olympics if he decided that was what he was going to do. He's not running track this season. Reason why that's important, I don't think a lot of people realize this. Nicholas Harbor did not early enroll at South Carolina. Okay, so no spring practice there. Last season, he's running track, so he's at spring ball, but he's mostly observing. He's not getting a full spring practice. This year, he's like, okay, I'm all in, all football. And that's encouraging to me because he should be, you would hope, your wide receiver one at South Carolina this year. With the physical tools, with the speed, with the size, all those things. If he becomes a true wide receiver one, a true big play threat for South Carolina, I don't think you have a lot of question marks around what the offense can be. They feel good about the offensive line. They feel like they are good enough at running back. Did some work via the portal there. If Nicholas Harbor pops off and takes a massive step forward, the South Carolina offense is going to be very, very difficult to stop, y'all. Mike Fury, the wide receiver coach at South Carolina, has told Nicholas Harbor he should work to want to be the best wide receiver on the planet, which sounds hyperbolic. Maybe it is a little bit, but given his physical skill set, to have your coach give you that vote of confidence, that should be one of your goals. I'm here for that. I'm here for hyperbolic confidence. I'm here for speaking life into your players in that way. So again, we'll see what he is as we progress here, but the fact that he's getting a full 15 practices to devote to just football, I love that. And also I love the mentality from Nicholas Harbor. Sounds like he is in some way, shape, or form seeing what last year was for him and gets excited by that success and wants more for it. He's hungry for it, and that's obviously a very good thing for South Carolina fans. Now, another good thing for South Carolina fans, staying in the wide receiver room. South Carolina took 6 wide receivers this most recent recruiting class, 5 of them already on campus. Okay? It's good news. It's very, very good news. Even better news, all the ones on campus right now, South Carolina feels like they hit on. All right? They feel like they're all going to be players for them. They've all flashed, looked the part, all those things. If those guys, even a fraction of those guys, can come along and get up to speed at the SEC level, that's just more weapons for Lenore Sellers. That's more help for Nicholas Harbor, and that ultimately will probably help South Carolina when it comes to what they don't need to do in the spring transfer portal. So it'll be a thing where if they have the right fit in the portal with a guy and they can find a receiver, they'll take him. But overall, I don't think South Carolina is in a spot where they absolutely need to go take a wide receiver via the portal, and that's a very, very good thing. Now, defensively, replacing a lot of production, they feel good about where they're at in the secondary. There's no replacing a Nick Emanwari, but Torian Gray, DB's coach for South Carolina, kind of has an old school vibe to him. Taking some transfers, sure, but it's a thing where Torian Gray just always seems to have guys. It kind of follow the old school model of wait your turn, develop, and when you're ready, you pop. Like Jalen Kilgore is a guy that's played for South Carolina. Obviously, they expect big things from him. Sounds like that's the vibe so far as well out of spring practice. He's trending in that right direction. The interior of the defensive line is the big question mark right now for South Carolina on defense. Got some guys that they think could help them. That's just something to monitor now. So go over to Gamecocks Central. Just monitor that a little bit when you're trying to keep up with all that's going on throughout spring practice. Brian Thomas Jr., the defensive line, is someone that they expect to not replace a Kyle Kennard, but maybe step up with the absence of a Kyle Kennard to the NFL. The reason why I highlight him is you got Dylan Stewart on the roster. You have arguably the best defensive player in college football with Caleb Downs coming back at Ohio State. It's probably the conversation between those two. I think Dylan Stewart benefited so much from Kyle Kennard being on the other side of him because you couldn't just double-team one of those dudes. If you double-team Dylan Stewart, then Kyle Kennard was getting home, and vice versa. So this upcoming season, there is no Kyle Kennard. Can Brian Thomas Jr. win enough of those one-on-one battles when Dylan Stewart gets extra attention to keep the South Carolina line of scrimmage at the vicious spot that it was a season ago? Now, they are replacing some linebackers. A couple of guys to highlight so far. Sean Murphy is a transfer linebacker from Alabama, then to Florida State. Now he's at South Carolina. It's worth noting, I've been told that before Sean Murphy was taken by South Carolina in the portal, South Carolina got the stamp of approval from Nick Saban that he was a player they should take. If Nick Saban's saying you're a take, probably a good sign. Now, here's one more I want to make sure we highlight, and I'm going to look down at my notes to make sure I get the pronunciation right here. Justin Okoronkwo. All right, check that out. Justin Okoronkwo, linebacker from Germany, previously at Alabama. Now, I don't know how much stock you want to put in spring games, but you go watch the A-Day. A guy who was, fresh out of Germany, making plays during Alabama spring practice. Still guys in the SEC, still teammates that are a lot of stars next to their name. Alabama doesn't really take low-star guys typically, so to be able to fly around, and I think he might have been the leading tackler in that game, or at least one of, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. So those are two guys to monitor throughout spring practice, but overall, South Carolina, it sounds like, is still going to be, I think, a version of what a lot of us thought they would be in the preseason. My take has always been, is South Carolina going to be the most talented roster in the SEC? Probably not. I think that would surprise a lot of us if that were the case. It doesn't mean they can't still go compete for the college football playoff. Why? Because of who you have at quarterback, because of who your head coach is, and overachieving is a word that gets thrown around, I think, in a negative connotation. That's not the case at all for Shane Beamer in South Carolina. They're a team that has done more throughout the course of the last couple of seasons than what's been expected, and they've done it in the margins. They've done it with their traits. They've done it in a gritty, find-a-way kind of fashion. And now you have a guy who's an absolute super freaking quarterback. You take the talent that he has, paired with those traits, paired with the taste of success from last season to build upon that. Like, I love where South Carolina is. I love all the intel I'm hearing, and I cannot wait. Y'all, to watch them week one. And I believe their first game is in Atlanta as well. So just keep a pulse on that. We'll keep a pulse on spring practice as it pertains to South Carolina. Would recommend, I would encourage you to go check out all the intel over at Gamecock Central. Wes Mitchell, the entire team, just owning, dominating, choke holding all the coverage over there. So make sure you're locked and loaded over there for all of your South Carolina intel needs. Now, I know a lot of y'all got a lot of needs, all right? Now, one of your needs is to stay nourished throughout this time of year. A lot of things going on. We say it a lot. It's important we note it. Heupel is making sure that you have all that taken care of during spring practice, during March Madness, during whatever you got going. Heupel has got you covered, all right? Their Black Edition, ready to drink, is a complete meal in a bottle full of 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, low in sugar. All you need, baby. Got you covered, all right? So 15% off plus a free gift using our code on this show. If you're watching on the YouTube channel right now, look at this, man. There's a barcode here in the top right corner where the kids can't get it, but hopefully you can get it. Go ahead and scan that hard count 15 at Heupel.com to get that 15% off plus a free gift for new customers, okay? Hard count 15, Heupel.com. See the description of the show for terms and conditions. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Heupel nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters. Bada bing, bada boom. Bada bing, bada boom, spring practice rolling right along. That's what really matters to us on this show. We've told you about spring propaganda. Propaganda, sometimes a negative connotation tied to it, not with us. We inhale it, we live it, we breathe it, we inject it into our veins, off the air, of course, because that would be something that I think would get us flagged on YouTube if we broke out the syringes. But nonetheless, fresh propaganda out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and we're all the way here for it. Now, when we inhale propaganda, we typically go to the socials, and the Alabama social media team did a great job now of giving us a little bit of propaganda to nibble on, not enough to get full on, but there's a couple of things that I want us to talk through from the latest spring practice snippet we got from the social team. I want to start with the young DBs making a little bit of a case for themselves here throughout this social media clip. So check this out. Look at Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. breaking up a pass, big body, 6'4", 197 Dijon Lee making a play and batting the ball away. It looks like during one-on-ones there against Ryan Williams. I'll just say it. Ryan Williams is going to be one of the better wide receivers we expect in the SEC, if not all of college football next season. I'll start with Dre Kirkpatrick. Feel old yet? His dad was at Alabama during our lifetime, okay? A guy who made plays at Alabama semi-routinely, one of the better corners at Alabama in recent history. Dude making plays. Always good to see young DBs making plays. Now, Dijon Lee, in that second clip, we're in number 5, 6'4", 197, like I already mentioned. Just to see young DBs getting after it in that fashion. Isn't that kind of what Alabama's been built on historically? Like great defensive back play. Don't you think about that when you think about the Alabama teams that would win the BCS or even the college football playoff? It was usually accompanied with great secondary play. And last year, you saw good secondary play from Alabama. I mean, like, when it comes to the numbers, they were one of the better units in the country, but they were pretty young, like Zabian Brown, freshman, Damani Jackson, young buck. To have those proven commodities at corner, to go with, you would hope, some more young DBs that'll make some plays like that throughout spring practice and hopefully provide you something else in the fall, that's a very good sign. Like the defensive backs, I think, under Kalen DeBoer 1 year and Kane Womack 1 year in Tuscaloosa, in some ways has been kind of a strength of what Alabama has been. You cannot win a national title, which is what Alabama expects to do going forward here as the standard they've set. You cannot win a national title with a lackluster secondary. Go look at the college football playoff last year. I would argue 3 of those 4 teams that made it to the semis, probably the best secondaries in college football. Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State, one of the best defenses in college football. It's a common denominator here. So I know we're taking a lot from a little, but if that's the way this Alabama team is going to trend, if those guys are on the roster paired with what else we already know is on that roster and that talent is going to stay at a top-tier level, okay, like, hey, Bama, let's roll here, baby. Love to see that. Love to see that. Now, in addition to the young bucks getting after it in the secondary, also saw some receivers making some plays. So now you gotta be locked in here if you're watching on YouTube, because this is again, great work by the Alabama social team. We got very, very brief snippets here, but check this out. You'll see Jeremy Bernard, a little shot into the end zone, deep touchdown catch. It's a quick one right here from Isaiah Horton. Check it out right here. Boom, look at that. First of all, Cato on the 1s and 2s. Electric pause right now, man. Perfect back shoulder, but check that out. Big Isaiah Horton, emphasis on the big, man. 6'4", 209. I mean, dude's a few three-course meals short of maybe putting his hand in the dirt and playing tight end. I'm being facetious, of course, but to have a big body like that on the perimeter, little back shoulder catch, making some plays in practice, I think that's a good sign. I am really excited about Isaiah Horton. Someone I spoke to close to Bama feels like he could have all SEC kind of chops. Now, Isaiah Horton transferring over from Miami. So I'm excited about what he brings to the table when it comes to winning one-on-one matchups. You already have Ryan Williams, you know what he is. Jeremy Bernard, we'll talk about him in a second. But to have a true jump ball, call for it in the post kind of wide receiver, I love that for Bama. And I think a lot of great receiving cores, I think a lot of great just offenses in general have a lot of different genres of receiver. I like seeing Isaiah Horton do some good things in spring practice. Again, a lot from a little. It's like a half a second clip, but thankfully we got Cato on the pause, and we got Isaiah Horton making big-time catches and giving us something to talk about here as we move forward throughout spring practice. Now, Jeremy Bernard, you saw in that second clip, he is the proven commodity. All right, I think that what he was last year maybe nationally got a little bit overlooked just because of how good Ryan Williams was, and the fact that Ryan Williams was a true freshman, got a lot of juice along with his game he had against Georgia, kind of created this snapshot for us of what Alabama was as a receiving core. Jeremy Bernard's a good freaking player, okay? And so him making plays in spring practice just further emphasizes the point that he is going to contribute this year in a big way, I think. Contributed in a big way last year. But I want to make sure we say this. I think he was good a season ago, and we just didn't even get to see as capable as he is at wide receiver, as good as Bama is at wide receiver. Like, we have a video out on the channel right now. Bama has been, I think, not able to flex their muscle in that room as much because of what you didn't have at quarterback. Now, whoever wins the job at Alabama this upcoming season, whether it's Simpson, whether it's Mack, whether it's Keelan Russell, whoever wins that job will do so because they were able to push the ball downfield. That is what Kalen DeBoer wants to do. That is what Ryan Grubb wants to do. And so if that's the case now, you're going to see Jeremy Bernard flex in a big way, even more than he did a season ago. You're going to see Isaiah Horton have a big-time year in 2025 and Ryan Williams pick where he left off. This is a group that, again, is way better than I think even the rest of college football knows at this point in time because you weren't able to run your offense how you wanted to last year. So a little bit of propaganda. Sure, we're leaning into it. We're taking a lot from a little. But I was encouraged to see those two position groups have a little flash here early on in spring practice. I believe they're scrimmaging this Thursday, so keep it locked right here. We'll have intel for you whenever that scrimmage finishes up. And keep it locked over at Bama Online because they'll have some juice for you there as well. So go ahead and lock in. But we love the propaganda, man. It's good for the soul. Absolutely good for the soul. You know what else is good for the soul, man, is hearing from y'all via the voicemail. 629-888-3931. Give us a call. We'll talk ball. We'll talk life. We'll talk whatever's on your mind. But first up, we got Ryan talking a little Buckeyes from Columbus, but he is not an Ohio State fan. Take a listen.
What's going on, JD? My name is Ryan here in Columbus, Ohio, and I just want you to just burst every Ohio State fan's bubbles because I've been seeing a lot, I've been hearing a lot about them going back-to-back national champions, and it just irks my soul that is an actual belief here in Columbus. Now, just by the simple fact that everyone around them is getting better, everyone in the Big Ten is getting better, they're just not going back-to-back. And the fact that they lost how many starters? I think it was 15. Don't quote me on that. Lost offensive coordinator, lost their defensive coordinator, and have a freshman at quarterback. I mean, I'm a big Michigan fan. I'm a Bryce Underwood enthusiast. We do have a freshman at quarterback, but he's the number one player in the country for a reason. So I just want you to just come on here and just burst all Ohio State fans' bubbles and point out the facts and just stop their delusions, man. Thank you.
Man, shout out to Ryan. Michigan fan in Columbus, Ohio? Are you kidding me? Ryan's got to be one of those guys, man. If you're going to be a fan of the rival school, so shout out to Ryan, and shout out to Ryan calling in again, 629-888-3931. Ryan, let me just say this. I've just told you how much of a dude I think you are, being a fan of your rival in not just like in the state of Ohio, but being a Michigan fan in Columbus, Ohio is a feat in and of itself. Unfortunately, man, I can't do what you're asking me to do. I can't do it. I don't say unfortunately because I have any agenda against Ohio State. I'm saying unfortunately because you called in and made a point and said it with your chest, so I appreciate that. But, brother, it's still Ohio State. It's still Ohio State. And I understand what you're saying, too. Ohio State loses a lot from last season. 101st, I believe, in returning production from last year's national title team. But new at Ohio State is not the same as new at another school. Like, new at Ohio State is not bad. It just is new. Exactly that. Like, this is a roster that's made up of exclusively top 5 classes. It's still creme de la creme. And I'll say this, too. Not just is it top 5 talent, it's top 5 talent that got exposed to what it's going to take to win a national championship. It's one thing to be talented. It's another to be able to be talented and then know what it takes to get it done, man. Like, I think that maybe gets overlooked a little bit in this whole discussion. There's a lot being made about, well, hey, can Ohio State avoid complacency? Can they avoid the slip-up of winning a national title and the hangover? It's all fair. It's all very much so a fair thing to ask and talk about. But at the exact same time, I don't think we give enough credit to how much it could be an advantage for Ohio State as they look to repeat. Now, the Julian Sayin thing you mentioned, I think is fair. He still has got to win the job. He is a redshirt freshman, so full year in the system. He got spring practice last year, so not quite the same as Bryce Underwood, true freshman at Michigan. But, man, far be it for me to tell you he's not that guy. Far be it for me to tell you he's not him. Now, he still has to do it, still has to earn it. We have not seen him play a lick of college football that is meaningful. No knock on the garbage time he got, but no real meaningful snaps yet for Julian Sayin. I will say this. Last time Ohio State played a redshirt freshman at quarterback, it was an individual by the name of C.J. Stroud, who Julian Sayin has been comped to a little bit by some folks in the media. C.J. Stroud, his first year as the guy, went for 44 touchdowns. So, again, I'm not saying it's going to be a one-to-one comparison, but Julian Sayin will have every opportunity, I think, avenue for success as his first year as the guy if he does, in fact, win the job. Now, I do think he wins the job, just so we're on the same page here. He's still throwing to the Monstars. He's still throwing to the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith. So does he have to live up to the standard that is Ohio State and being the quarterback? Of course. I think that's honestly the biggest challenge that I have for him is, can you handle all that comes with being the guy at Ohio State? Can you handle with being the guy at Ohio State if you lose the first game to Texas? That's where I question Julian Sayin. I don't question the physical tools. I don't question the accuracy or all those things. I question, can you handle everything that comes with being the quarterback at Ohio State? Because if you're at Ohio State and you're a take for Ryan Day and that staff, you're probably good enough to get it done. Now, what you said, I think, about the coordinators is the most valid case that you can have maybe projecting against Ohio State repeating for a national championship. Because there were games last year from Jim Knowles to Chip Kelly that those dudes, I don't know if they won you the game, but they absolutely earned their paycheck. They absolutely made a massive difference. The Texas game comes to mind where Chip Kelly's dialing it up at the end of the game, and you got some trickeration, a little Emeka Ibuka, and you got a little design quarterback for Will Howard, a little run game there. There's a lot there that I think Brian Hartline, being elevated to play caller for Ohio State, he'll have to, in the same fashion, bring enough to the table to allow you to make that jump. Matt Patricia as the DC. To me, it's not so much are they good hires. It's, are they good enough to make up for that 10% Ohio State's going to need to win a national championship? Because, y'all, there's going to be, call it 10 out of the 12 games Ohio State's going to play where they can roll the ball out there and be more talented. 9, depending on how you feel about Penn State. That's really the question I have. Are they good enough to elevate Ohio State from a talent level? It's not a talent thing. It's a talent level being elevated, quite frankly. Now, the rest of the Big Ten that Ryan mentioned, I think, is also a really good point. If Ohio State doesn't win the Big Ten next year, and they didn't win the Big Ten this past season, still won the national title, if they don't win the Big Ten this coming season, I don't think it's a knock on Ryan Day getting complacent or Ohio State not having the juice or whatever. It could be, but to me, I would honestly lean more towards the potential of what the rest of the Big Ten is going to be. Like the Penn State, they've made every move this past offseason to go compete and win a national championship. The same kind of moves you saw Ohio State make last season. Penn State made this upcoming season. Oregon, what they are on the roster, you always know they're going to have the talent. Michigan, they're only getting better, and they beat Ohio State last year in Columbus. USC, I don't see them staying down. So there's a lot there to where if Ohio State, to get to your point here, Ryan, if the bubble is going to burst in Columbus, it's going to be, hey, coordinators weren't good enough to make up for what you lost last season, and the schedule overall, the Big Ten overall, the tide kept on rising, and they were good enough to get it done. It all comes down to me, whether it's fair or not, to Ryan Day being able to keep that temperature set at a national title level. Now, when I say setting the temperature, I'm not just talking about setting the thermostat to a certain point. I'm talking about, can you actually change the temperature tangibly? Because coaches can demand a certain thing of their roster and they can say all the right things during team meetings and all that. I'm talking about, can you legitimately put into your entire roster the sense of urgency and the way of doing things that is required to go win a national championship? If they can, amazing. But if they can't, I do think you look at Ryan Day. I think you look at the rest of the roster of not being able to come along quickly enough for Ohio State to repeat. So, Ryan, I think it's very possible that Ohio State could repeat. I'll leave it at that. But I'm excited to see what they are, and I appreciate you calling in, and I appreciate you dialing in from behind, for you at least, enemy lines, being in Columbus as a Michigan fan. So we appreciate Ryan. Up next, we got Bailey from Nashville. Want to talk a little Tennessee.
Hey, JD. This is Bailey calling from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a massive Vols fan, but I'm kind of having second thoughts about the team next year. Who's it a bigger year for, Josh Heupel or Nico? I'll hang up, and I look forward to hearing about this on the show.
Awesome, Bailey. Appreciate you calling in, brother. Great question. I think, to be honest, it's a Nico thing for me. It really is. And this is not a knock against Nico Iamaleava. I just look at what they were a season ago, and I don't have any questions around Josh Heupel. Like, to me, the proof is in the pudding with Josh Heupel. Two different quarterbacks. I mean, he's won 10 games with Hendon Hooker and Nico Iamaleava. With Joe Milton, they scored over 30 points a game. I see a really clear direction with Tennessee football under Josh Heupel. I see where it's going. You see the defense get better. They just recruited their best class in the Josh Heupel era. The trenches are continuing to evolve with the David Sanders and what that class was this most recently. To me, it's about Nico because he's the one that I think has most of the pressure in 2025. Now, I want to be clear how I say this. I don't think it's an end-all, be-all 2025 for him. Could absolutely come back next year and be phenomenal in 2026. He has that option. But this is the year where you're supposed to see Nico Iamaleava, in my opinion, peak. Because at this point now, he's going to year 3 in the system. Year 2 as a starting quarterback. There shouldn't be a ton of surprises for what he is at the college football level. There shouldn't be a lot of surprises that are acclimating to him in the SEC. If it's going to happen for Nico, this is the year I point to where I say, okay, yeah, maybe things weren't perfect around you. And last year, that was, I think, in some ways, an excuse we could make for him. Not that it's a thing where Nico played poorly last year, still made the college football playoff, but this upcoming season, if you're going to be who you were billed as a recruit, the top player in America, this is the year where you make that difference. This is the year where, hey, maybe the receiving core isn't perfect, but you make the difference. The offensive line is not great. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but let's hypothetically say you make the difference. That's what great quarterbacks do. And we say this far too often, but I'll say it one more time. We watched the pro game. Pat Mahomes is out there running around with a JV wide receiving core a couple of years ago. What happens? They win the Super Bowl, right? So Nico Iamaleava, again, I'm not telling you that if he doesn't get it done this year, he's a bust, but like, is the defense going to be a top 5 unit again this upcoming season? Maybe. I don't know if I want to bank on that if I'm a Tennessee fan. The receiver room you hope is good enough, but if it's not, I think Nico's got to be the reason why you have success. To me, that looks like him dialing in the deep ball. To me, that looks like him making good/quick decisions. All those things to me, I think are what is the next step for him. And if it doesn't happen this year, I don't think differently of Josh Heupel. I look at Nico and I say, okay, we need more here, brother. We need some more from you. So some of this isn't fair. Some of this is something that is a little bit of him versus what he was as a recruit. But again, I need to see it this year for Nico. I need to see it because I think the roster is good enough around him. Maybe not elite, but good enough around him to go get it done. And this is the spot now where your third-year quarterback, your second-year starting quarterback, makes the difference for you and gets you back to the college football playoff. So, Bailey, we appreciate you calling in. Up next, we got Brandon from Charlotte. I wanted to talk a little about the Oregon Ducks and what they're doing on the recruiting trail.
JD, how's it going, man? Brandon Smith, live in Charlotte. Just wanted to ask you about specifically, I'm an Oregon Duck football fan. I wanted to ask you about how sustainable you think the recruiting the West Coast footprint is for Coach Dan. You know, do you think that's something that can sustain the majority of his roster while wanting to, obviously be a championship contender year in and year out. I want to just know your thoughts on that. And obviously the national recruiting plays a factor into it. Do you think that's something that Dan can sustain during his tenure here? Thank you.
Appreciate you, Brandon, calling in, man. Calling in from Charlotte. Oregon's got their footprint all over the place when it comes to the fanhood side of things. But what I think you're saying there is on the money. We're in a day and age in college football where I think you got to recruit nationally. I think you have to recruit nationally. Now, I will say this. I think when it comes to what you need to do on the West Coast, it's strictly about being able to get your guys that need to be gotten from the West Coast. Let me put it another way. Oregon's in a spot where regardless of who they're going after, this is not to knock the state of Oregon, but they're probably getting on a plane either way to go see the kid. It's a matter of, is it going to be an hour flight or is it 4 hours, 5 hours, so on and so forth. And so I think also you talk about the West Coast, I don't think it's even realistic to say we're just going to lean on California, just going to lean on Arizona and Washington. And that's not me saying that there's not enough talent in those states to sustain what Oregon wants to do. But I think with where Oregon is geographically, they're going to have some competition with Arizona State now in Arizona. I think USC, I've said many times, if they can lock down Southern California, they're in good enough position. So it's not about the talent in those states. To me, it's more about who you're competing with in the battles that you're probably going toe-to-toe with, especially now with USC and how they're operating, to where it's not a safe assumption to just say, yeah, we'll just get all the guys in California and that's going to be how we win national championships. Also, give Dan Lanning credit. You mentioned this. Oregon's at a spot now where the brand and the way that they recruit in general, it is a national footprint. Like, yes, you look at this most recent cycle, and there's a lot of guys from the West Coast and California, Arizona, and Washington, all that I just mentioned. But, 9 of Oregon's 19 commits were from places outside of the West Coast. Like, you talk about dudes they got from other states, Alabama. They go into Texas and get Corey and Moore. And they go to Ohio. Like, Oregon's a school to where, to me, they kind of just go where they want to go and recruit who they want to recruit. I don't think they're bound by geographical ties quite as much as maybe you would have been. You talk about early 2000s and where college football was then. A good metaphor here is when you're rich, man, you shop wherever you want. You're not bound by what store is close to you. If you want to go shop at Gucci and you got the money to go shop there, that's where you go. You want to go to a Louis Vuitton store, you got the money, you go to Louis Vuitton and you go shop there. That's where Oregon is right now. And that's not me telling you it's just pay for play, but I do think we'd be kidding ourselves if we thought the resources and the NIL backing that Oregon has with Nike, if we don't think that plays a factor, it absolutely does. And so to answer your question here, the West Coast has to be a part of it so much as there is talent that Oregon wants from those states. Like if you want to just go recruit exclusively Texas, exclusively Georgia, Florida, wherever, you can do that if you're Oregon. And that's a credit to Dan Lanning. That's a credit to the powers that be at Oregon to elevating them to a spot where they can get it done. I'll also say this. I think the reason why you're seeing Oregon recruit the level they're recruiting at, yes, it's because of, the NIL backing. I'm sure that plays a factor, but man, Dan Lanning is from the Nick Saban and Kirby Smart school of thought when it comes to recruiting. You're always doing it. And Dan Lanning's an absolute dog on the recruiting trail, man. Like, yes, you have the resources to go compete at a high level on the recruiting trail, but if you don't have a dude to make it all go, if you don't have a guy that's willing to jump on those flights, willing to make those phone calls at just, I'm sure, ungodly hours, then it doesn't matter. Dan Lanning is built different. And so the point I'm trying to make here is Oregon overall, as long as they have the product they have on the field, as long as they have those NIL resources that they have, they're going to be a factor regardless of where they want to recruit. So to put it simply, yeah, recruit the West Coast, but Oregon's not going to be built just of West Coast talent. Why? Because there's talent all over the United States that Oregon wants to and will go get. They've proven that. They'll continue to prove that. And by nature of how Dan Lanning's recruiting right now, I don't see Oregon going anywhere anytime soon. So again, man, we appreciate y'all being tuned in and dialing in. Again, 629-888-391. I want to hear from y'all, man, making this show go. It's here now. Spring practice is here. Spring intel is here. I want to hear from y'all on spring propaganda. Tag us and all that you find on the socials. But we're excited. We're jumping headfirst into this thing. We're going to enjoy the heck out of it. This is the greatest sport on the face of the planet. It goes year-round. We get to have a show year-round. So we're going to make sure we take it for all it's worth and maximize the heck out of it. For Cato on the ones and twos, for myself, JD PicKell, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We will keep this party rolling. We'll see y'all next time.